truly the reason why I want to get to where I want to get to, because I need to pull everybody with me up. Like, hey, you come do something. You come do something. Like, you remember the people that you do stuff with, and that's the main thing. So I tell people, you got to show up. And I'm not saying kill yourself to show up, but I'm saying make a constant effort to always bring your A game and show up, because you don't want your procrastination to block somebody else's blessing. Like, that's the, we're here to serve, like, and serving is the highest form of love. So if you want to show love, you serve, and you give back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on an expert who can help us reach our inner potential. He's a writer, actor, comedian, and entrepreneur who is in the pursuit of his own self-mastery. He's a member of Dormtainement, a YouTube comedy group that grew into a comedy production company. He's a host on Comedy Trap House podcast, as well as Boss Talk podcast. He's also the founder of Shady Side Up sunglasses. For all the OG Bearded Man followers, he was guest for episode 62 of Purpose in Youth podcast, which came out November of 22nd of 2017. We're almost at 5 years this fall. Today on the podcast, Rome.
Man.
Jr.
Come on, man. That's hey, listen, that's when I get on podcasts, that's the intros I like to hear, you know what I'm saying? Like a nice rundown, I'm here for it.
Gotta give context, dude.
Gotta give context.
And also, I think it's from the times that I've been on the opposite end and going on to a show.
Yeah.
It's that moment in time where you're like, I've been on this path.
Yeah.
Like we're so constantly like growing and what do I have to do today? But you take a moment to look behind and you're like, you've done some stuff, my man. You've been putting in the work for over a decade.
I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, there's something so honest and powerful about reflection. You know what I'm saying? Like when you reflect, it takes you from thinking in the ideal and thinking in the now. And so you understand where you started from and where you ended from, and it's a great thing in the book called The Gap and the Gain that I'm reading now, and they basically talk about how too many people focus on the gap and not the gain. The gap is where you feel like you should be, but the gain is what you've accomplished. And I was like, oh man, you could take that for every aspect of life. When anything happens, you can either focus on the gap or focus on the gain. And that book has really been like getting my gears turned. I'm like, okay, I like that. Of course, because we're creators, we're entrepreneurs. We go through these things. We're like, you get in these moments and you're like, man, I just, what have I done? Have I done anything? But when you think about where you started, think about almost 5 years ago when we did the first one, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, I've done a lot. I've done a lot.
There's been a lot of gain in those 5 years for both of us. So whatever gap we're facing right now in the future, it's only a matter of time before we gain up on that. And then there's going to be another gap. But there's been a ton of growth within us.
Yep.
Yeah, bro, this is gonna be a fantastic conversation. I immediately want to jump into and get your where your headspace is at right now. What really caught my attention was you had DM'd me. You had seen a TikTok of mine about a video I had made about 1,000 days of celibacy.
Yep.
Which putting that piece of content out when I first dropped the podcast over a year ago was one of those moments where I was like, I'm really about to send it right now. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I feel so comfortable with like sharing this, but like this is like some vulnerable shit, and I just want to put out there to the world. I'm just curious, like, what inspired you to want to listen to something so vulnerable like that? It really, it honestly was such an incredible moment for me to see you reach out and like want to support and listen to something that was like vulnerable for me. But I'm just curious, like, where was your headspace at and wanting to dive into that?
Because I'm a firm believer in the power that it's going to sound funny, but the power that our life force, our semen has as men. So I'm a firm believer in not necessarily just wasting it all the time, you know what I'm saying? And putting that energy back into creative things. Like I've had, women look at me when I tell them, oh, like I'm doing a retention thing right now, like a semen retention thing where I'm just like, I'm not releasing. I'm storing my energy. I'm meditating. I'm using that life force to put towards something else. And they're like, huh, what you talking about? But they just don't understand where for men, that's a big part of us. I mean, it's a huge part of it. I mean, it creates life, so
Yeah, totally.
it's a big part of us. And when we just release and just our energy is low, and so it leads to depression for some men when they just like are all the time doing that because they don't feel like themselves and stuff like that. So when I seen that you did the celibacy, I was like, that's a great thing. I'm sure he felt powerful. I was like, I know he felt powerful, and that's why I wanted to listen to it, because I just wanted to see what your insights were. And because I did 8 months one time before, and I remember how I felt. And I was like, you know what, that's a beautiful thing. And I tried to do pockets of kind of a similar thing throughout the year. So I might do like 90 days here or like 60 days here, or like, I take pockets of just having my life force to myself and not really letting anybody interrupt that. And every time I do it, great things happen. Like every time, every single time.
Wow. You know what? That's that's incredible to hear that you are literally creating the space for yourself to do that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me when I went into it was so unintentional, and there was so much, I went into it so unintentionally, like I need to give my space from chasing somebody or being, trying to build a relationship when I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah.
And along that journey, you then realize like I can be self-dependent. And also when I'm not chasing and putting energy into somebody else respectfully, I just go right back into me, which gives you that time to create the space to think, to dial in on ideas that you have. But to intentionally then tell yourself, like, I'm going to do 30-day sprints. I'm going to do 90-day sprints. I think that's a phenomenal way to look at not just within celibacy, but within life.
Yeah.
30-day sprints of no alcohol, 30-day sprints of not eating cheat meals. Like it forces you to really go internal. And then there's so much beauty that comes from it because you're not allowing these external foods, people, decisions that you would make if you're at the club to then ripple the internal of whatever that work is. And I agree though. I think when you're releasing like that, it's this constant high and then people want to get back to that high. And if you don't give yourself that space, you have no motivation to do anything.
Yeah. And I think it's great what you said about doing those stints, because I think because people always, and I just figured this out like maybe like 2 weeks ago, I was asking myself, what is balance? Because I didn't know, like what is balance? And it's funny because I started to break it down. I was like, all right, if you take like a balance beam, right, you got a balance beam and it's got two sides. Right. And by the law of polarity is where there's up, there's down, where there's left, there's right, where there's bad, there's good. And if you take this balance beam and you have all of the, let's say you're going out, you're drinking bad, you're eating bad, and that's all you're doing, and you don't take those little stints, you can never put anything on the other side of that beam. So it's never going to be balanced. So, but when you do those 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks here, 21 days, it starts to even out. And you're like, oh, okay, now I'm creating balance. So once the 30 days is up, okay, maybe I'll go out for like a week or two, maybe, and then I'll do it again. You know what I'm saying? And that's how, and I was like, oh, balance is only created when you put something on the other side to balance it out. You know what I'm saying?
You can't go full throttle raging for 2 months and then think that a little bit of work is going to like balance you out. It's still 100 pounds on one side. You just put a little feather on the left and there's nothing that's changing.
Exactly. And I was like, that's crazy that I'm 34 years old now and I just figured that out.
Young. 34 years young.
No, yes, young. 34 years young. And I'm trying to reframe. I'm going to reframe how I use certain words like that too, because somebody was saying like, you've never been 34 before. Like this is the oldest you'll be and the youngest you'll be. It's like, you've never been 34 before. And also with that being said, this is a new age. You're not old, it's new. And I was like, oh, that's very true. So like when you're 50, you're not 50 years old, you're 50 years new because you just turned 50. You've never been this age before. So how could it be old? And I was like, wow. I was like, that makes so much sense.
Well, I feel like as you're reading books, right, every new chapter, you get more excited to get into the book. And I almost feel like that should similarly be the perspective we have with age, is that
Same thing.
every new chapter, every new year, we're taking more learnings.
Yep.
We've had more opportunities to walk the path that now we get to take everything we learned from the last 10, 20, 30 years and then use it immediately into whatever this next chapter looks like.
Yeah, and it's so much wisdom that just comes with growing. You know what I'm saying? Just so much wisdom. Like who I was in my 20s is nowhere near who I am in my 30s. Who I am in my 30s will be nowhere near who I'll be in my 40s. You know what I'm saying? So this is great. It's great.
Yeah, you just celebrated your birthday last week.
Yes.
So this is like the timing of this podcast is perfect. Is there a lesson, a word, a phrase that you're taking from 33 into 34?
I would say if there's a lesson, it would be probably to relinquish, right? Because I, as a creator, tend to want to control everything, but I'm learning to um, relinquish tasks to like assistants, releasing control over what's going to happen in a situation, just relinquishing and sitting back and kind of letting the universe just work in the way it's supposed to and not getting in the way. Because when I get in the way, then it can't do what it needs to do. So me just stepping back and be like, you know what? You got it. you got it. You know what I'm saying? Because we tend to try to control something that really can't be controlled. It's something that's just is there for us to help us. But if we get in the way, it's just like when you tell somebody, like, can you help me with this? But then they come to help you, and you still end up doing all the work. And they're like, did you need my help or not? Like, what
are we doing?
What are we doing here? So, like, yeah, I think what relinquish would be the word I'm bringing into.
I think that's not to cut you off. I think that's a really tough thing for any entrepreneur, any creator, anyone that's had any amount of success, is that at some point, in order to scale, in order to grow, you have to put people in the position to succeed, and you have to delegate the things that maybe you used to do so that you can now spend the time and energy focusing more on the bigger picture, which it's not easy to do. I've recently gone through in the last 6 months, and you're trusting your baby. You're trusting these processes and these flows that, like, in and out, and it's going to get done correctly. But it's just part of, if you want to grow, if you want to scale, you have to learn to put the trust in others, which then sets you up for success, because now you have more space to think bigger and do bigger things.
Yeah, because perfect is great, but perfect never gets done. So that's the main thing. So you got to find somebody who can just do good work. Just like, you don't need somebody that's 100% of you. You can take 75, like 70, and then help them with the 30. And I think that's what I had to realize. Like, oh, okay, I don't need somebody who does exactly what I do. Yeah. They just need to be able to help in what I do. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in a place, when this is for any entrepreneur listening, you wanna as you keep scaling and keep growing, you wanna start getting away from what they call MWTs, which are minimum wage tasks. And you want to start working on your business, not in it. And that's a big thing. Like, a lot of times we work in it, and so we're in it. We're doing it done. CEOs and people who've been in the business a while, they work on their business. They're there. They oversee it. They make sure stuff is. Of course, they're still doing work here and there, but they're working on it. They're on top of it. They're not inside of it. You know what I'm saying? They can look, they can overlook from, bird's eye view of what's going on, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Because at some point you have to be able to switch it in order to scale, and scaling is a scary thing because you got to hire people, you got to fire people, you got to, it's this part of these these steps that you got to take. So, yeah, you want to, as you're growing in business, you want to start getting away from those MWTs, which is those minimum wage tasks. And I was like, when you put it like that, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, the system should be able to run itself
For
without
sure.
you being in it in the day to day.
Yeah.
So that you can think about where are we going 3 months, 6 months, a year from now.
Yeah.
And then you're allowing these people and these processes to be ready to go for when you start making these steps towards it.
Absolutely.
There was a clip that I had saw on your Instagram from the Boss Talk podcast.
Yeah.
And you had said you need self-mastery in order to maximize your ambition. And I love that.
Yeah.
What are the steps that you're taking daily, weekly, or monthly that are allowing you to step into your self-mastery?
Oh man. Let's see, where can I start? Well, I will say daily is just daily habits for sure. And you know, for anybody who's out there, if you haven't read Atomic Habits by James Clear, phenomenal book.
Got it right next to me.
Yeah, I got it right there. It's a phenomenal book. I see you with the bookshelf, but I know you got you on the books. But yeah, daily habits. I think it's small steps each day, like one foot in front of the other. I used to want to take big leaps, but sometimes when you take big leaps, you miss those tiny little pieces in between. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's am I meditating daily? Am I reading daily? Am I checking in with myself? Am I just getting outside, being in nature, taking a walk? You know what I'm saying? Am I eating the foods that are going to produce the right type of energy coming out of me? I immediately know when I'm off of those things, because my spirit won't feel at ease, and I'll be like, what am I doing right? One of my marks isn't being checked off right now. You know what I'm saying? And in 2020, I read The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and that book is in my top 5 of books now, because it really top five. That's for sure.
You're the second person that has brought up this book to me in this week, and I haven't read it yet. And now that means I need to buy it after this call. So tell me, why is it top 5 for you?
Robin, and shout out to him for even answering me back on Instagram. I know he's got it, but I remember I read it, and it just the way he tells the story, and it's a self-help book, but in story form. So it gives you like a big visual, and it's incredible, because it just takes you through a story of an entrepreneur and a 9-to-5. So you get both perspectives about waking up in the morning and envisioning how your day is going to be, visualization practices, and how to, like I say, how to be out in nature, and what it means to have your power hour, which is 20 minutes of sweat, 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of I think it's active work, and how that hour sets up the rest of your day. And they have a 66-day challenge where you get up at 5 a.m. every day for 66 days. And weekends included for the challenge. And that's why it's a challenge. That's why it's the challenge. Yeah. That's why.
Have you done it?
Oh yeah, I knocked it out. I did 90 days. Because once you're in it, you're in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of like the celibacy thing. Once you're kind of in it, you don't even really, you just kind of anything different. And plus it was beginning pandemic. So, I mean, what was I,
the most ideal time to do it.
Yeah, like what I had plenty of time. But it set me up for so much success. For over the past 2 years, it's been 5 a.m. Like I'll be up, and man, my morning, even though I was already getting up at like 6:30, but even that hour and a half pushback, man, it just really opened up a world of just like possibilities. I'm writing more, because that's my time. I can write in the morning. It's a stillness in the morning that I love. And so, but that book really shifted the way he talks about how your dreams and aspirations, how they fit into the morning, and how the morning has the energy to pull those certain accomplishments out of you. Like he breaks it up, man. It's a great book. It's a phenomenal. You're gonna love it. I know as soon as you read it, you're gonna be like, you're gonna hit me like, yo, this book. So I was reading it, and my boy was like, "What you reading?" So I gave it to him, He came out of his room the next day. He said, "I'm only 10 pages in. This is phenomenal." This is phenomenal. So yeah, I'm trying to get Robin on a podcast soon because he's a good dude. So I read that book by him, and then his newest book called Everyday Heroes Manifesto, which is a summary of a lot of his practices and stuff like that. And that's a really good book too. So yeah.
Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by the greatest hydration brand in all the land, Liquid I.V. I use Liquid I.V on a daily basis. This is a product that helps me have a clear mind throughout my day, helps me feel good when I'm working out, post or pre-run, lifting weights, hangovers on the weekend. Not going to lie, this has definitely made me feel a lot better the next morning. Overall, Liquid I.V is a product that I truly believe can help anybody and everybody help their reach their inner potential by helping them feel their best selves. Liquid I.V contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C, with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, made with premium ingredients, non-GMO, free from gluten, dairy, and soy. It's truly a great product. I've been using it for the last 4 years now, ever since I met the founder, Brandon Cohen, and it makes me feel my best self. That's what this podcast is all about. Not only are we trying to help one another become the greatest version of ourselves, the only way we do that is by making sure that we feel our best selves, both mentally and physically. And I think Liquid IV does a phenomenal job of both making me feel great physically, mentally, and that's so important for just my day-to-day grind and trying to become the best version of myself. If you're listening, you can't really see it, but if you're watching, I got the watermelon flavor, I have the tangerine, and then I also have grape. These are some of my favorite flavors. If you want to try some out, head over to liquidiv.com. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word. That's 25% off every single order. Once again, that's liquidiv.com, TheBeardedMan, all one word, 25% off every single order. You're not going to be disappointed. You're going to enjoy it. And also knowing that Liquid IV is helping change the world at the same time, donate over 20 million sticks across the globe globally. You're going to feel good while making yourself feel good. That's what I like to call a double win. Now back to today's episode. What helps you stay disciplined? Because that's, I think, people can read books, right? And they can get the frameworks, they can get the mindsets, they can get the habits, and they're like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to work out every day and journal and meditate and do all these things. But the hardest part is actually staying disciplined, which I think then allows you to then feel the ripple effects of all these amazing habits. So how have you approached holding yourself accountable to actually following through and sticking to these things that you know are working for you?
Because I feel like once you set a goal, right, and of course, like Atomic Habits said, you got these systems in place. But even with the systems in place, like you said, you got to have that discipline. And I think, and I feel like discipline is almost like 60%. Like, no, I would say it's 100% in everybody, but it takes a certain thing to activate it. You know what I'm saying? Like to activate discipline. I don't think discipline is just always there. I think it has to be kind of warmed up. It has to be kind of like churned. And that's why I love the phrase minor adjustments for major improvements. And I think once you start to see the minor adjustments that you're doing and how they're changing your life, you instantly get disciplined. For me, now it's different for everybody. For me, I'm very much a cold turkey person. Like if you came to me today and said, Rome, I need you to do 90 days, no liquor, real quick. Done. I can do it. I'm cold turkey. I don't know if it's just my upbringing. I don't know if it's my sign. I don't know. I cannot figure out why but I did read about Aries because sometimes I like to read about that stuff, and we like challenges. So I stay doing challenges. So
done.
I'm ready. So somebody came to me and because it would feel like a challenge. I'm like, what? Done. It's easy. Done. It's easy. But
yeah, see you 90.
Yeah. So that's my motivation. So I think it's finding the motivation to stay disciplined. Like it's fine. And I think what you have to do is you have to see where you want to be. Like, so if you want to say you want to stop drinking, you have to see your life as that person who's not drinking. Oh man, I'm about to feel great. I'm about to feel good. Cause you have to get fed up with yourself. You almost got to tell yourself like, I'm tired. I'm tired of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm tired of this. Because what has that gotten you? The lack of discipline, you see what the lack of discipline has gotten you. So what I talked about earlier, the polarity, the lack of discipline has gotten me this. So I think I should probably add some discipline to see
Yeah.
what could happen. And discipline doesn't have to be as extreme as I go. It could discipline could be all right. Look, every day I'm gonna start by just flossing every day. That's one thing. And then when you'll get that down, you'll be like, okay, I'm building that habit. What else can I add to this? And you slowly start
Yes.
to build that discipline. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Then you start to just feel good because now you're challenging yourself. Like, oh, what else can I do? What else can I add to this? So I think discipline has to be turned on, and we all have it, but it just has to be turned on by some type of motivation. But I don't know if the motivation can be external. It has to be internal. It has to be an intrinsic motivation. And for me, I remember it was the last quarter. This goes back to the challenges thing. Last quarter of last year, and I just was feeling off. And we just talked about this yesterday on our boss talk. It was called. I felt like I was in an I don't know phase. I don't know if it was, and I don't know phases can come at any point. They could be from burnout, from doing a lot of work through the year. It could be, oh man, I'm just not sure where I'm going in my career next. So you're just in a phase where you're feeling indifferent about what's going on. You're not necessarily sad, but you're just indifferent. And so I was like, when I'm in these phases, I understand that I'm going through a spiritual awakening every time these happen. And I think for people who are listening, if you're going through one of those phases right now, I think you're transitioning to something great, but you just have to sit back and let it manifest in whatever way. So me, I relinquished. I was like, you know what? Let me just sit in this, understand. I understand the feeling like, man, I don't feel good, but let me just navigate through that and do what my spirit tells me. My spirit told me to reach out to one of my friends. His name is Ryan. He's a nutritionist down in San Diego, great guy. And so I hit him and I was like, yo, man, I'm just kind of feeling off. And I know you into nutrition. Maybe do you have like some foods you can suggest that can just kind of like get my energy back? He was like, I think you should do the 75 hard challenge. First thing he said. That was the first thing he said. And I said, 75 hard.
Did you have any context? Did you have any context?
None.
That was?
I had no context.
Oh,
so
great challenge.
And so I was like, what's that? He said, I'm gonna send you a podcast and you go listen to it. So I listened to it. And then, it's by Andy Frisella, first form. And all I hear is Andy going, all right, 75 hard. So this is what it is. You diet of your choice. I'm like, so first I'm like, I mean, I've diet of my choice. I can do that. That's easy. Gallon of water a day. I was like, okay. Okay. We get a little bit, I can do that. I can manage that. 2 workouts. Both have to be 45 minutes and one has to be outside. I said, well, huh? And I'm talking about rain, sleet, or snow. And take a picture of yourself. Read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. I was like, okay, I can do the read. I've been reading, so I was like, I can do the read. And then last was I think that was everything for 75 days. And he said, if you miss anything, you start over. I said, anything, picture, anything, you start over. So I took that as a challenge. And I said, okay, there's a reason why he said that first. So I got to do it. I was like, I got to do it. But it was so pivotal because my friend was going through the same type of thing I was going through. And I told him about it and he locked in with me. And
accountability partner.
And we went through, and I did it in the hardest part of the year, the holiday season. I did it from October to December. So Thanksgiving, like all that stuff, winter, cold, outside.
You're eating good. You're not drinking. You're not participating in any of that shenanigans.
None of it. No drinking, none of that. And when I tell you, it was probably the best thing. It was the best challenge I've ever done in my life, for sure. It got me back exactly where I needed to be. And I was like, it was meant for me to reach out to him. But because I relinquished control and just moved with my spirit, that's the reason I found out about that 75 hard challenge. And it was, oh man, it was phenomenal. And then right after, the day we finished the challenge, 2 days later, we were on the plane to Africa. So it was a great send-off. It was a great send-off trip.
Have you ever read the book, The Surrender Experiment?
No, somebody told me about it. I haven't read it though. I haven't read it.
I'm reading it for the second time right now.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of what you had just said, where like he presented you this and you kind of just like, all right, I'm just going to do it. The entire story of this guy's life, which is based on a true story, is he just begins to surrender to where life is taking him. And he stops kind of questioning.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do this. Like the friend says 75 hard. The author, Michael Singer, would say, guess I'm doing 75 hard, or,
Yeah.
he just learned to just flow with life and doors open, and it took him to where he needed to be. But what else is really interesting, and I'm curious to get your take on this, is that you go into Q4 with this like question mark of just like, I think every person, no matter their success, like, goes through that moment.
Yeah.
I have it from time to time. It's not questionable, but
Yeah.
it's also so interesting to hear because in Q4, you end up locking in a massive brand campaign with Best Buy, which is, you're in the comedy space, you're a writer. Yeah. This isn't necessarily like the thing you were working towards, but it is a massive, massive statement for you as a creative, as a entertainer.
Yeah.
So did that serendipitously happen at some point while you're going through the 75 hard? Was that already locked in?
Everything happened during 75 hard. That's the funny part.
That gives me some chills.
That's why I knew it was meant. Like, I started 75 hard, and I think 3 weeks later, my agent hits me up and say, "We got this Best Buy audition." So I do the audition. He said, "You got a call back." Great. So I go to the callback in person. I get to the callback. It's me and one other guy sitting in there. So the guy goes in first. He leaves. The dude comes out. He's like, Rome Green. I put up my hand. He's like, "Oh, hey." And so I'm about to walk in. He stops me. He was like, "Let me tell you something." And so he's looking at me. I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "This is already yours. They've been talking about you before you got here. So just go in there and do your thing." I said, "What?" He's like, "I'm telling you." He was like, "You don't have to do anything. They love you already." I said, "All right." So I go in there, I do the scene for them. They're laughing, they're talking, whatever. And then I'm about to leave out, and I was like, "All right, I'll see you guys on set." And they laughed again. And so I left. An hour later, my agent called me. He was like, "You got it." He was like, "Is this yours?" And I was like, everything just lined up perfectly. And then I had no idea that it was a national commercial. I didn't even know. I had no idea. I was at my mom's house on Thanksgiving watching a football game. I'm eating a plate of food. I hear my voice. I look up and I'm like, during the football game? And then all of a sudden, my timeline goes crazy. My people are hitting me up. Like, "I just seen you're doing the national football game." I was like, "Oh, what?" But I just relinquished that control. I just was like, let's just roll with it. And I think that's just where I'm at in my life now. When somebody suggests something, instead of turning it down, I'm like, maybe that's not from them. Maybe that's from God. Maybe that's from, maybe that's something trying to tell me that I should look into this. Like, if somebody suggests, "Hey, man, you should write a book." Sometimes people are like, "Oh yeah, I mean, one day," but you might be like, like, what's that mean? Like, what? let me just write it down at least. Let me explore what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But the Best Buy was beautiful, man. Shout out to everybody that helped on that. And I just shot a Hyundai commercial that comes out next week.
Wow.
Yeah. So stuff is rolling, man. Yeah, it's been good, and it kicked off right after the 75 hard time because I was so locked in. That's the most locked in I've ever been because you had to be. There's no way.
There's no other. You have no other option. You have no other option. You're eating good. Your physical health is dialed in. You're not drinking any alcohol. Your mind is right because you're reading 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
You literally have no other option but that puts you in a space that you are operating so differently and moving so differently through the world than anybody else because you're just at your prime time. You're literally like in your constant flow of like ultimate potential for that given moment.
And I had to learn not to be judgy because like people would act like I would be posting like day 15, day 16. People ask, "Why are you doing this?" And immediately I would get mad because I'd be like, what? But why is it an issue if but what's this challenge for you? I said, for myself. But then I've had people say stuff like, "Oh, I can never do that. Oh, from 75 days, I can never do that." And it made me realize, like, man, people immediately go to "I can't." They just immediately go to "I can't." They don't say, like, "Hey, what's this about? What are you learning from this? Like, what's going?" Like, they go, "Oh, I couldn't do that." And I'm like, why is that the first? Because that's just human nature to go straight to that thing because because your body fights discomfort. Like it don't want to and so your mind has to be like, hey, body, I know you don't like it, but we're going to have to do this. You know what I'm saying? But I got to the point when people would say I can't do that, and I would respond back and say, yeah, you probably can't. Something.
Because it's mindset.
Yeah.
That's all it is. People that are immediately not believing in themselves, you are going to have to believe in yourself before anyone else in this world does.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, the best thing that you can do is you can't waste any time or energy trying to convince somebody to do a 75 hard to better themselves. But the one thing that you can do is lead by example. And that is like thinning through what I've tried to do the last couple of years is like, I'm just going to document my life. I'm going to showcase everything I'm doing. I started marathon running a couple months ago. I started showing that day-to-day process. And when people go say the same thing, I can't run a marathon. It's like you could if you wanted to put in the work, if you looked at the micro steps of what it takes. But, I'm not going to tell anyone how to live their life. I don't look at you any differently just because you don't prioritize the things that I prioritize. Like we're all products of our environment. Where you were raised might have molded you to think one way or think another way. It's fine. If you're open-minded and you want to have a conversation, I'm here to give you guidance. But other than that, I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. And I'm not going to tell you this is how you should live your life. This is just the decisions that I'm making to hopefully reach my inner potential. Yeah.
In the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, he talks about resistance and how, and the voice of resistance it's there every day. Every day is there. But every day you have weapons to fight against it. You know what I'm saying? To fight against resistance. And that's what, when people say that, they can't do something, that's not them. That's that resistance in their inner spirit. That's telling them like, do something uncomfortable. Oh no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I mean, and for anybody listening, I'm not saying I'm perfect either. I have those days plenty where I'm like, I'm not, fuck this. I'm not doing nothing. I don't want to do nothing. Yesterday, I told my friend, my alarm went off. I said, nah, man, I'm not, I can't. And I started saying I can't, but then I immediately was like, no, get up, come on, get up. I had to reverse it because you're going to catch yourself. You're human. So I was like, I had to reverse it. And as soon as I reversed it and went to the gym, I had the best workout of my week yesterday because I was like, because now I'm fighting myself. I'm like, what? No, you ain't going to tell me I'm going to get up and do this. I'm going to show you, body. We're going to go through this. And it's funny. And this is how good of a workout it was. I've been doing this thing where I'm having to warm up with 3 miles, for a warm up. And so I've been having to like run for a minute, walk for 2, run for 2 minutes, walk for 2, this kind of back and forth. But yesterday, and my time has been like around 36 minutes, for 3 miles. Yesterday I finished in 30. I shaved off 6 minutes.
Oh, so you were cooking up
I was cooking yesterday. And I was like, that goes to show when we push past resistance, we get our best results. When we push past it, you get your best results because now you've done the work. You've done the hard part. You push past it. Now it's like, oh, now it's a breeze. Let's get it. Let's work now.
Yeah. I once heard on a piece of content this guy named Matt Diavella on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I love Matt. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I knew you'd be aware of him just because of like the stuff that you're diving into content wise. But he once talked about a piece like the 5-minute rule, which I think is like giving yourself 5 minutes to see where something ends up. Like it could be like, I'm just going to sit down and write on my keyboard on a white piece of paper for 5 minutes. And if I don't get anywhere, then so be it. Or even then he talks about like, okay, you want to go to the gym, but you're not feeling the motivation. Well, why don't you just put on your shoes? Okay, you put on your shoes. Well, why don't you grab the t-shirt that you usually wear to the gym? Okay, you put that on. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm dressed to the gym. I might as well just go show up for 5 minutes and see what happens. And so when we stop thinking about, wow, I need to go to the gym, I'm going to be there for 60 minutes, then it like, blah, blah, blah. Break it down to the very small micro of like those first initial steps. Because what happens is the momentum picks you up. It carries you the rest of the way. And then from there, you're off to the races. You end up going to the gym. You have the best workout of your week. And you remind yourself of like anytime those days where I don't feel like doing this shit, which happens to me more often than not, I just tell myself, put your 2 feet on the ground, go out of bed, grab your stuff, get out, like go grab a glass of water, just meditate, like those small micro steps. And then every single time you find a way to just get that internal, fire within you. And then you're off and you're running.
And you know what's funny about this whole self-mastery journey, and I'm sure you're aware of this. Have you read the book, The 4 Agreements?
Four Agreements by who wrote it?
Don Miguel.
Yeah, I think I have it.
I believe Don. It's either Don Miguel or I believe it's Don Miguel. I'm looking on the Googles. The Four Agreements. I believe. Yeah, Don Miguel. Yep.
Yeah, I have it. I read it a couple years ago, and I need to reread that.
So, for those listening, the Four Agreements are number one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, never take anything personally. Number three, never assume. And number four, always do your best. And the reason why I'm referencing this book is because one, it's the book that started me on my self-mastery journey. That book, that particular book, it will always be in my top 5 because it started me on my whole journey when I was 27. And so, but here's the thing: once you read the book, and then because I've reread it maybe like 2 or 3 times, and you get those principles in your head, they stick with you. And when you're on a self mastery journey, the stuff that sticks with you. It's funny. I tell people this. Sometimes I don't like being on this journey because I want to do the old things I used to do sometimes. So, for example, I'll be editing, and there's a clip, and maybe I've already exported it, right? And I'm watching it back, and I left like a 10-second space in there that kind of messed up the video. Old me, I'm just like, all right, man, well, they just going to get what they get. I'm not going back in here and read, because
nobody's even going to notice.
Because you know how exporting can take long sometimes. You're like, I'm
100%.
I'm not doing all this. But now, for example, this happened to me a couple weeks ago. I had exported this thing, and I forgot to put the actual title inside of one of the topics that we had. Everything in my mind was like, yeah, I'm all right. It's just a title. But then always do your best popped in my head, and I was like, damn it!
I gotta go back. I gotta go back
because I never know who may be watching that particular episode and be like, you know what? This episode was well put together. They had all the titles together, Let me reach out to them for an opportunity. You just never know what may. And I'm just like, oh, why do I think like this now? It makes me mad.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It all takes is one clip, one opportunity that could bring a whole new set of opportunities for you.
Yeah, and so I'm like, so anybody, if you read that book, you'll start to realize or when somebody is yelling at you, and you'll get home and you'll be like, but why did they? And you'll be like, you know what? I can't take it personally. It's not me. It's not. You'll start but they're great principles. They help you. Like, oh, okay, being impeccable with your word. Like I tell somebody, yeah, no, I'm gonna be there to support you on Sunday. Sunday comes, I don't feel like it. Then I'm like, oh, but but it keeps you in check, and it keeps you in an ecosystem of accountability, and that's what a lot of people don't have. It's just that ecosystem of accountability where you're like, you know what, people can count on me. That's one of the best comments I can hear from somebody. One, that Rome is always on time, and hey man, he's going to show up. He's going to show up. Whatever it is, if it's a podcast, it's going to show up. I'm working off of 3 hours of sleep right now. There was no way I wasn't hopping on this podcast. I'm going to show up one way or another. my boys see, because I got home at 2, because I was at an event. I didn't even mean to stay that long. I got up at 5. I went to the gym.
Oh, so you will not allow yourself you will not give yourself like the once in a blue moon, let me sleep till 8 to catch up on my sleep.
Of course I will, but something was like, I was like, I've had a good week, man. I want to finish it. I got to finish it. Strong. And so I went to the gym. So my boy said he got up at like 5:30 and seen my car was gone. And he said he just looked and he was like, I can go to war with that guy, man. Because I heard him come in late and he's up. He was like, I can go to war with He's going to be there. He's going to show up.
That's respect. That speaks very loudly to you, bro.
So those are the comments I like. Consistency, Boss Talk. We started February of 2019, and it drops once a week. We haven't missed a week since February 2019.
That's the thing about the content world, is that everyone knows it takes consistency, but to really truly be able to look back on 3 years like that, on top of every other, not only are you just producing that podcast, you're on a separate podcast, and then you have like everything else that Dormtainement probably touches. So the fact that you still are able to consistently show up and put out that much content is like, that in of itself is the win.
Yeah,
like,
that's the
we want to grow. We want to see like our analytics grow. And but showing up, executing, and putting out that episode on a weekly basis is where 99% of podcasts will fail.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, you're already at, I would argue, the top 1%.
Yeah.
Because you're consistently showing up for 3+ years, that at that point, it's inevitable that at some point something's going to catch fire and you're going to be off to the races.
When we started Dormtainement, we put out a video every Sunday for 4 years straight. Every Sunday a skit, and that's what got us to where we're at. That's the reason why doors are open, because of that consistency. So I tell people, consistency is the name of the game. That's the name of the game. And besides, I would take this and just say, listen, my procrastination is blocking somebody else's blessing. So I don't have time for that, because it's not about me. It ain't about me no more. It's about my little brother who looks up to me, who wants to be a YouTuber. Like, it's about, kids out here that want to do what we do, who want to be podcasters, that might follow and then be like, oh, Bobby, we want to be, I want to podcast. I have to show up because my procrastination is literally blocking somebody's blessing. If Issa Rae would have stopped doing her show on YouTube, her Awkward Black Girl show, there would be no Insecure, and Insecure wouldn't have hired her friends, who her friends have gone on to write. And like, your stuff literally opens up doors. So, and that's what it's about. Like, that's truly the reason why I want to get to where I want to get to, because I need to pull everybody with me up. Like, hey, you come do something. You come do something. Like, you remember the people that you do stuff with, and that's the main thing. So I tell people, you got to show up. And I'm not saying kill yourself to show up, but I'm saying make a constant effort to always bring your A game and show up, because you don't want your procrastination to block somebody else's blessing. Like, that's we're here to serve. Like, and serving is the highest form of love. So if you want to show love, you serve, and you give back. Yeah.
It's such a different motivator / accountability when you realize it's so much bigger than yourself.
For sure.
You're not just like, because you can, when it's like, oh, I'm showing up for Rome today, you can slip things under the rug. Nobody's going to know about it. But when you have that perspective of like who you're doing it for and what the grand picture is, it honestly just becomes almost non-negotiable, because you recognize this is so much bigger than me that like, it doesn't matter what my opinions, it doesn't matter what my mood is. I've signed up for this. This is the lifestyle that I've chose. I need to follow through and actually do the things that I said I was going to do, so that it has the impact that it has on the people that are relying on me. It's putting that pressure, putting a healthy pressure on your shoulders. It's not the life or death pressure, excuse me, but it's a healthy pressure, which then allows you to actually show up even on those days that you're not really feeling it.
Two words that rhyme are feel and will. And a lot of times the feel will get you in trouble and it will stop you, but the will have you continue to go. And like, it's plenty of days I don't feel like recording. Plenty of days. But I have to have the will, the drive. Like, I just got to. You got to move past the feeling, because feelings they're gonna be there. Like, it's just, they're gonna be there. But every time, 9 times out of 10, once you start, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. All right, I'm getting it done. I'm getting it done. But feelings will get you in trouble. They be like, man, if you listen to your feelings all the time, you'll never do anything.
You're never going to feel the motivation. You're never going to feel the motivation. The motivation or the inspiration doesn't necessarily happen out of thin air.
Yeah.
It comes from us actually showing up and doing the work. And then we feel more inspired because we're like seeing the progress that we've been making. And to me, it's like, just, you got to build in routines and schedules so that, at 10 a.m. today, I got a podcast to record. It's not, maybe I'll record a podcast. It's like, it's on the schedule. Yeah. I got to show up. I got to deliver. This is what I said I was going to do. And then, that kind of gets the momentum going.
Yeah. I tell people, have a schedule, but just be malleable, be able to pivot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know on Mondays to record at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Okay, cool. Oh, shoot. We got an email. We got to send in something. All right, cool. We can pivot and figure something out, but at least the schedule's there, because that's, in the field we're in, you never know what random thing may come up, but at least I'm like, all right, Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, and you got a set schedule, because when you don't have a set schedule, you just kind of moving loose and like, it's just like, you're just loosey goosey, you don't want to be out here loosey goosey, So.
Oh, that's so good. I was so happy you just made the comment though about you got to be on time, because that was one of the first things that me and you talked about on our very first podcast was the importance of time management. And I think there was an issue with the Uber on your way to my place, and you were like, text me like, "Yo, I'm sorry, like the time, like we're gonna be there." And then you ended up getting there on time, but you were very communicative, like, "Yo, it's the Uber, something's wrong, we're on the way, blah blah blah." But
that's the only thing that gives me anxiety, man. I do not play with my time, and yes. I remember Meek Mill said this. He said. They said, what's one thing you love about Jay-Z? They said he's never late. I said, if Jay-Z, billionaire Jay-Z, can be on time, what excuse do we have? Like, what excuse do we have?
Yeah.
He don't have to be on time. He definitely doesn't have to be on time.
He could show up 60 minutes late and the meeting's still going to be waiting for him.
Still going to be waiting for him. But he has a level of excellence that he likes to uphold. And that's the thing for me. Like, it's the principle about it. Like, I tell people, like, I've let too many people slide, and I'm like, they're like, oh, or this and that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Now I don't let people slide. I'll let them know, hey, I don't play about the time. So if you're not here, if you're not here this time, I'm probably going to start. I'm just going to let you know. But but people get in their head and they're like, oh, I can't be playing. My mom, it's funny. My mom called and when they were in town, and she was like, I'm just letting you know, I told your sister to be there at this time. I got her up early because I know. So my family knows I do not play about time because I think it's just it's a respect thing. I mean, that's just, for me, it's just a respect thing. Yeah.
Outside of time management, what other things, characteristics or traits or mindsets go hand in hand with excellence? Because that's a great word. That's a great word.
Let's see. Yeah, of course, definitely time management. The processing of emotions. That's I think, to stand firm. Like when you think about kings and queens and people that run nations, you can't just be off your rocker and go off on emotion. Like you have to. That's how wars get started. You know what I'm saying? So when something happens, you got to be able to sit. I've read this book a while called the Art of Silence, about stand-up comedy, about those moments when you got to sit in that awkward, that silence. Like, so when something happens that's uncomfortable, you got to be able to just like Bane and Batman. I was molded by it. I was, you got to take it, because then if you give yourself like 2 minutes, your response and your reaction will be, because it's never about what happens to you. It's about the reaction of it. You know what I'm saying? It's never about, oh, they said something to me, because people are going to be like, yeah, they said something to you, but look how you reacted. So it's always going to be about the reaction. So I think process of emotion, time management, and being able to show up, like we were talking about earlier, just showing up is just an excellent thing to me, because I don't even care if you had a bad day of work. And you're like, oh man, my work came out trash today, da da da. I'm gonna look at you, be like, I feel you. It is trash, but you showed up. You know what I'm saying? You were here in the trenches, even when you didn't feel like it or was having a bad day. You were here in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's another excellent quality. And I think just relationship skills, friendships, businesships. I think that's a huge one, because we're always going to be working with people, whether we want to or not. People can sit around here and try to be loners all they want to. You can get some places, but you're not going to get too far. The towers, the pyramids didn't get built by themselves. I mean, unless it was aliens. But
that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's another conversation. But you know what I'm saying? Things get built together, and so you got to be able to have those relationships, because you got to be able to manage, to know people's communication styles. Hey, the way I talk to Bobby is not the way I talk to Cindy, because me and Bobby have a different relationship than me and Cindy. It's two different things, and people don't understand. They think that you can just talk to everybody the same way. Like my trainer, when I was working out, to us, he cusses at us, calls all types of names, like all type of stuff. But when he's working with other people, different person, whole different person. I'm like,
Yeah.
I had to think about it. I was like, what? I was like, oh, well, we're his friends. That makes sense. I mean,
Different relationship.
it's the relation. He goes to do that to somebody else. I'm like, well, fuck this guy. I don't want to be here. Like, for
Yeah.
us, he knows we're homies. So it's like, whatever. They'll be all right. You guys will be okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it too.
That's good. I'd call that the Rome's excellent four: relationships, showing up, time management,
Yeah. And processing of emotions.
Yeah, that's Rome's four.
Solid four, man.
Yeah, you slightly mentioned it earlier, but you also very much mentioned this in the first podcast that one day you would want to write a book.
For sure.
If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would the title of it be?
It's well, I have two different books. So one book would be called Kaizen, which is I believe the Japanese term for someone who's forever evolving and continuous growth. I actually would love to name my son that, to be honest. So it's a beautiful term. I learned it in also Robin Sharma's book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which is his first book. And another phenomenal book. In that book, he talks about Kaizen and how we're forever always on the process of growing. So that book would be titled that, and it would just pretty much be about growth. But the book that I also want to write is as kids, we think we can fly, we can run the fastest, we're superheroes, we're Spider-Man, we're back, all this stuff, right? And then there's a turning point in our lives when the world comes down on us. You know what I'm saying? Parents, society, friends, and they kind of take that glow outside from kids. So, and sometimes as a comedian, I was telling my friend, I was like, sometimes I don't feel like an adult. I feel like a kid, you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And then I feel bad for feeling like a kid sometimes. I'm like, but I'm an adult. So I want to go to child psychologists, doctors, children's workers, and talk to them about kids, their mannerisms, their brain, the way the brain works, and show people that you can basically still have that big imagination and those big aspirations, and how you can be childlike without being childish. And so it's going to be a whole study about kids, and I want to tie everything into like your dreams, your aspirations, what you want to be, and how you can use the child within you to create the world outside of you. You know what I'm saying? And that book is going to be called My Crayon Filled Briefcase. So
my man has been thinking about this for this ain't just coming out of the works today.
For sure. That's that one I've been thinking about, because I think it's important to me, because I think that certain glow that kids got, man, once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. It's tough to get it back, because the world is heavy. It's heavy out here, so it's tough. And if you tell somebody, oh, you can't be you can't be a doctor, no way, a kid will take that and be like, oh, I guess that makes sense. My family isn't doctors. I guess I can be a doctor. And then slowly but surely the world beats you up, and it's like, nah, we got to keep that childlike energy. I mean, Disney World was created from childlike energy. Yeah. When you think about it that way, that's really what it is. So yeah, those are my books. And don't nobody try to steal my title. I already copyrighted it. I already copyrighted it. So you're done.
You're smart. You're smart. I will say, just from speaking on personal experience, I think last year was a big year for me to tap back into that inner child, to create space, to play, to have fun, to do things without worrying about judgment, to dip my toes into new waters of things I've never experienced but are interesting to me. Yeah. It then has rippled into every other area of my life. And I think I'm very fortunate. I live with two other guys that very much have that same mindset where we kind of joke around. We're like, we're adults, but we feel like we're kids that have money and it's fun. And we're just like having the time of our lives. And, but I really do think that not only is it important to continue to tap into that inner child, but I think you can, when you feel lost, you can go back to that inner child to figure out, who am I really?
Yeah.
What do I really like to do?
Yeah.
And I think that can kind of point you in the right direction for where you need to go.
Yeah, you'd be like, man, I used to play.
Lose it.
You'd be like, man, I used to just go outside and bounce the ball. You know what? I'm gonna go outside and bounce the ball.
And then it's like nostalgia, and you feel great again. Like we went swimming in the ocean yesterday. And I was like, this reminds me of being a kid and just being at peace and present, and not having my phone, and just detachment from the world. And it's that, even just that 30-minute window was just like the biggest refresh for me waking up this morning of like, there's all these things I want to do, but like, also let's just have some fun here.
Man.
Let's just enjoy the ride.
You guys want to go play kickball?
Exactly. We'll get the adult league fired up this summer, dude.
Yeah.
It's so true. Ron, we're getting into the final 5. These are the last 5 questions of the podcast.
Sure.
We try to keep it to one sentence.
Okay.
If you got to go a little bit longer, feel free to do so.
Okay.
First question for you: how can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests and their ideas? It kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about. So I'm curious.
Learn to give themselves permission
to follow their interests and ideas.
By realizing that they could die tomorrow.
Simple as that. It's truth.
Yeah.
Simple. It's the truth. Question number 2. If you had to go back to any point in your life and give yourself one piece of advice, what would the advice be, and when would you, what era of this life would you go back to?
Man, when I was 18, buying a $150 sweater, I would stop myself at the register and say, hey, don't buy the sweater, but buy the stock in the sweater company. That's what I would say. Because, man, if I could have known that back then, how the money I could have made right now.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. Great way to look at it. Third question for you: what's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Funny thing, giving myself grace. I think I'm still a little tough on myself, a little tougher than I need to be sometimes. I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
Recognize, not good that you are, but recognizing that that's the thing that needs to be, the acknowledgement sometimes is the biggest first step. So just acknowledging that I myself am my biggest critic, I'm my biggest hype man, I'm my biggest you need to have my expectations through the roof, but also give myself some self-compassion to like, you're in the process. Like as long as you're making steps and strides towards where you want to be, like enjoy yourself. Don't get yourself too stressed out.
And then also I would say in the area of rest, not like sleep, but rest.
Recovery.
Like, oh, maybe I should take the next 24 to 48 hours and literally do nothing.
It's great for not only your body, but your mind.
Yeah.
Super important. Fourth question for you: what's the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential?
The first step anyone could take to reaching their inner potential. By stop trying to be a human doing and be a human being.
Coming in on the final 5.
Yeah, so I heard that during this church sermon. He said, too many people out here trying to be do. We're not human doings. We're human beings. Just be, and everything will come. And I was like, that makes sense, man.
Love that. That's beautiful. Fifth and final question for you. If somebody listens to the last 60 minutes of this podcast, they finish wrapping up listening to this episode today, what is one challenge you have for the listeners after they finish listening to this episode?
I challenge you to challenge yourself. I challenge you to challenge yourself. And you know the area. I don't know the area. Bobby doesn't know the area. You know the area. Challenge yourself. You've been saying you can't get up early. Now try it. You've been saying you need to go to bed earlier. Try it. Yeah, you've been saying you need to get back on the good eating, but try it and just take it baby step. If you want to get up, say you've been getting up at 8. All right, let's try 7:30. Boom. Let's try at 7. What we say earlier, minor adjustments for major improvement, and then slowly but surely you'll be like, oh, I'm getting up at 6 now. Like, I'm just great. Like, that's how it is. So I would say I challenge you to challenge yourself, and I think because when you challenge yourself, you're going to get the best results for everything else in your life. Everything will come into fruition.
So good. And I think everyone, like you're saying, nobody knows yourself better than you.
Yeah.
So who better to put that challenge and be real, be honest with yourself, and don't cut yourself short.
Yep.
Actually challenge yourself to do the thing that you've been neglecting or an area of your life you've been wanting to improve on. This is hopefully the moment that gets them to do that.
Yeah.
Rome, this has been exactly what I thought it would be. I knew this was going to be
a
great conversation, but it was really, it was so like, just listening to that first episode, which I'll have linked up in the description for the below for anyone that wants to listen to it. After listening to this episode, it might be really interesting to hear our minds and our perspective just a couple years ago. But true. I will say that even listening to that conversation back then, we are just products today of exactly very similar mindset of like pursuing our areas of interest, all the while recognizing that like we need to become the best versions of ourselves to then get to whatever we're trying to do. But man, just one thing I didn't get to say was don't remember where, but I was watching TV and I saw your commercial come on, and it was just like, there's Rome. like I didn't expect it, and it was purely just like pouring gasoline on my own fire, because I was seeing before my eyes like a guy that gave me an opportunity to come into my bed rodeo back in 2017. I was just getting started in California, and now I'm seeing him on the big screen, and he's got a Best Buy commercial. I looked at my homies and like, yo, I podcasted with this guy like 3 years ago. So seeing your success, hearing how much growth that you've had over the last couple of years, just in your mindset and the way you are working towards your self-mastery every single day, all this has been so inspiring and just literally just is an honor, man, because one of the biggest things I had coming out to California, I moved out here 4 or 5 years ago, was I just want to be surrounded by people that inspire me, that make me feel great. Not people that I need to reach and grab from for things, but just like I want to be around good people. Yeah. You were for sure one of the first 10, 15 people that I had connected with when I first moved out here. And I'm honored to see how much progress you've had. I'm honored that you had the time to chat today, and just keep going, man. It's been incredible to chat with you today, brother.
For sure, man. And I think, I'm gonna do a better job in keeping in touch. I got to make sure I have your contact still, because I think for me, having just like-minded men in my life that's one of the most important things, like, for sure. Yeah. Because I know a lot of people, but sometimes it's like you need those people who you can just reach out to and say, "Hey, man, I'm having a little moment. Can I chat with you real quick?" Hey, man, what's up? Like, because we all go through it, you know what I'm saying? So,
totally.
So I appreciate you. Like I said, I remember when you reached out to me, and I'm never one of these people like, oh, they don't have any followers, I'm not gonna do it. Nah, let's do it. I didn't hesitate. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Whatever. I'm down. I'm good. Like, and I don't. I think for me, it's just coming from a good place. But people always tell me, it's like, you don't realize how important that is, because a lot of people don't do. They won't. They'll be like, they'll look at your followers and be like, oh, well, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't even think about it. I look at the character of the person. I'm like, all right, what are we about to talk about? Oh, we're gonna talk about growth. Oh, let's do it. Like, let's do it.
I'll bring the popcorn.
Yeah,
let's get this thing rolling.
Let's get it rolling. I could literally. Big Sean has a line, and that's why I align with Big Sean. He's an Aries too, like myself, and he of course he was just on Jay Shetty's podcast for the second time.
So good,
so good. But he has a line in one of his songs. He says, vibes and energy is a language all on its own, and I've been fluid. And then he said, right after, he said, guaranteed, if we having conversation for longer than 5 minutes, I'm dropping wisdom and gems through it. And I was like, that's where I'm at. But that's where I was like, that's where he's at. That's where I'm at. So that's where you're in this place. Because when you're on this journey, you can't help but, like, sometimes I'd be in a conversation, I just start spitting, and I'd be like, I didn't even mean to go into that. My bad. It's just my fault.
Get into the flow, baby.
It just happened. So, yeah, man, this was great. I could do these all. We won't wait 4 years this time. We'll keep it. Nah. We'll keep it. We'll keep it.
It'll happen a lot sooner than that. And I will say this will be chapter 2 of our friendship, where I think there will be a lot more in person happenings to move forward. So I can feel the energy even just through doing this virtually. But we're definitely going to make sure that this happens. Like some life things happen in person, so that we can not wait for a conversation.
And congrats on the marathon, man. That takes persistence. That takes effort, man. That's gonna be good. good. That's gonna be good.
Thank you, bro.
Yes, sir.
I'm extremely excited for it.
Yes,
Ladies
sir.
and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode today, please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening on, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. Post it to your IG story. Tag Rome. He is at I Roam a lot. I love that IG. That's IROMEALOT.
Yeah.
Tag him, tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's BO, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. Share out this episode on your IG story. Let us know, what was the biggest takeaway? How did this episode change your perspective? Maybe if you're willing to share, what's the challenge that you have for yourself after listening to this podcast? I'd be very curious to hear and see what that challenge might look for you. It's going to be different for every single person. Also, linked up below, I will have both of the podcasts that he's on tagged up, as well as Dormtainement, just at Dormtainement on IG. Google it, YouTube it. You're going to find all their content there. Is there anywhere else I should be sending the listeners after listening to this podcast?
Hey, and if you want to feel cool and bring your personality out, hey, grab some shades, man. Shady Side Up. Yeah.
Boom. That'll be linked up in the description below. You want to? Summer's coming.
Summer's coming. Summer's here.
You're gonna need some shades. You're gonna need some shades to block that sun.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna need some shades to block the haters. All right.
Exactly.
So get those shades. Cool. Rome, thank you for being on the podcast. Also, I got to quote. I got to give credit where credit's due. It's always good to talk to fellow bearded men. So thanks for being.
Come on, man. Hey, we out here. We trying our best.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.